It began on a quiet morning. People were eating breakfast, heading to work, or still asleep. The sky was clear. No one expected anything strange. But then, across every screen, every speaker, and every satellite, the message appeared. It wasn't. In any human language, at first it was just strange colors and odd tones, like music made by machines. But then, it shifted. The signal became a face. It wasn't human. It had smooth green skin, 4 eyes, and no mouth, but the sound came anyway. And the first thing it did was laugh. Loud, echoing, alien laughter. Not angry, not cold, but amused mocking. The kind of laugh someone gives a child pretending to be strong. Then it spoke in perfect English. "You're cute," the alien said. "Too cute. Please stop. You're embarrassing the galaxy." The world paused. Millions of humans stopped what they were doing. Some laughed, thinking it was a prank. Others waited, unsure if it was a joke, a movie, or something serious. But the signal didn't end. It kept broadcasting, repeating the same message in dozens of languages, from English to Hindi to Swahili. The alien face returned. "You build rockets. And call yourselves explorers," it said. "You fly to your little moon and think you're conquerors. You play with machines and pretend to be advanced. But we've seen real civilizations, planets made of crystal, suns turned into engines, time bent and folded like paper." The creature leaned closer to the screen, as if watching humanity from above. "You are children," it said. "Children should not be allowed to play with fire." The alien paused, then gave a wide, unnatural smile. "But we admit it," it said. "You're entertaining. It's like pets, or performers in a circus. That is why the Galactic Pact has decided something important." The screen changed. Now hundreds of alien species appeared. Some had wings, some floated, some looked like walking shadows. All were laughing, pointing at Earth. "We welcome you, little humans," they said in one voice, not as equals, but as the galaxy's cutest mistake. Then the signal cut. Earth was silent. No one knew what to say. Governments went on alert. Military leaders locked down communication networks. Scientists began scanning for the signal's source. News channels played the message again and again. People on social media made jokes, memes, and angry posts. But deep down, something had changed. This wasn't a simple alien greeting. It was a warning and an insult. They hadn't come in peace. They hadn't come to destroy. They had come to laugh. In a secret underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, a room lit up. The walls were covered in screens. A single long table sat in the center. Around it sat 12 people. Men, women. One old man in a wheelchair. One woman with a steel arm. Another with eyes that glowed blue. None of them spoke at first. They had seen the broadcast before it went public. The old man cleared his throat. "So," he said, "they think we're a joke." No one replied. "Didn't just insult our tech," the woman with the steel arm said. "They mocked our evolution, our culture, our existence. They didn't see our weapons," the man at the end of the table said. "They saw our cartoons." A long silence. Then the blue-eyed woman finally spoke. "Should we respond?" she asked. The old man shook his head. "Not yet," he said. "We don't scream back at laughter. We let it echo. Let them think they're safe. Let them relax." His eyes narrowed. "Then we make sure the next time they hear from Earth, they don't laugh, they beg." In the days that followed, world leaders denied panic. They said Earth was still in control. But behind the scenes, a new project began. Not a war plan, not a peace mission. Something different. It was called Operation Velvet Claw. The name didn't sound dangerous, and that was the point. Wasn't going to fight back with nukes or laser cannons. Not yet. Earth would do something worse. They would be cute. On purpose. In a lab in Tokyo, scientists worked on smile programming AIs. In a base in Kenya, agents were trained in emotional manipulation. Actors, psychologists, and comedians were recruited into strange new government jobs. Toys were tested not for fun but for psychological impact. Soft voices, warm colors, gentle music, all turned into tools. The idea was simple and terrifying. If the galaxy thought humans were cute, then humans would give them cute. So much cute, it would break them. It started with a video. A child playing piano. Behind him, a dog howled along out of tune. It seemed innocent. But it wasn't just any child. It was the daughter of one of Earth's top linguists, playing a melody encoded with hidden math. The dog's howl wasn't random. It matched frequencies used in alien tech. The video was uploaded to EarthNet, where it spread like wildfire. 2 days later, it was picked up by alien sensors in the Glee system. 3 days later, the same melody crashed a minor council AI. 6 days later, the system went dark. No one made the connection. Then came the stories. A puppet show from South Korea made its way to an alien cultural archive. It told a tale of a small creature who loved too much and cried so hard it turned a desert into a forest. Aliens watched. Some cried, some laughed, some grew quiet and never spoke again. They didn't understand why it hurt, but the virus had begun. More human content flooded the galactic networks. Songs with strange emotion patterns. Videos with colors that activated alien brain responses. Jokes that didn't translate but somehow lingered in memory. The pact leaders noticed. They banned human media. They failed. One alien admiral laughed at Earth's emotional warfare during a press briefing. The next day, he resigned. Rumors said he began hugging walls and writing poetry. The species didn't even have emotions before Earth. Another planet collapsed into panic. When a human bakery ad triggered a memory cascade in its citizens, something was wrong, and it was spreading. Back on Earth, the old man in the wheelchair watched the reports. They called us cute, he whispered. They thought it was harmless. He turned to the woman with the steel arm. Release the children. She hesitated, then nodded. Across space, Earth's first envoys stepped onto alien soil. Not soldiers. Not scientists. Children, dressed in soft clothing, holding toys, speaking with innocence, but trained in 100 ways. Each word, each smile, each tear, designed to break hearts. On the alien capital world, a girl handed a cookie to a war general. He laughed. He took it. That night, riots began. Entire districts refused orders. Soldiers laid down weapons. Drew strange shapes. Leaders cried in private. Earth had not attacked. Earth had entered. The galaxy didn't understand what was happening, and that was the point. They laughed at Earth. That was their first mistake. Now the laughter was fading, and something else was rising in its place. Fear, but not the fear of guns or bombs. The fear of something worse. The fear that humanity wasn't trying to be dangerous. The fear that maybe, just maybe, they always were. A massive alien ship hovered above the outer edge of Earth's moon. It was black, silent, and shaped like a triangle that never ended. The ship did not blink, did not move. But inside, hundreds of alien minds were watching Earth's every signal. One of them, a tall, gray-skinned commander named Thalik, stared at a floating screen with cold yellow eyes. On the screen was a video of a young human girl singing to her cat. That's the 5th one today, Thalik said, clicking his claws. Another message hidden inside a child's game. The officer beside him, smaller and covered in soft fur, looked confused. It's not even threatening, he said. It's just warm, strange. Like they're not trying to scare us at all. Thalik leaned forward. That's why it's dangerous, he pointed at the screen. They're not sending soldiers, they're sending feelings. Back on Earth, under a hidden base in Siberia, 12 humans stood around a long table. At the head of it sat the same old man, his eyes sharp, voice calm. His name was Admiral Callan. They're watching our transmissions, Callan said. Good, let them. The woman with the steel arm gave a small nod. The children have returned, she said. Every one of them was invited back by the alien planets. Some are even being begged to stay longer. The man with the glowing eyes chuckled. They thought sending kids would make us look weak. Instead, it made their entire civilization cry. Callan tapped a screen. "This is Operation Velvet Claw," he said again. "We're not attacking planets. We're reaching their minds." All across Earth, new agents were activated. Not soldiers, but dancers, poets, designers, programmers of beauty. Their orders were clear: create wonder, deliver innocence, cause emotional chaos. A man named Jonah sat inside a dark room. He wore headphones and a plain white shirt. On his screen, images of alien architecture scrolled by. Jonah didn't blink. He was studying patterns, shapes, colors, the perfect combinations that would confuse alien. Logic and awaken curiosity, then obsession. He was a designer of dreams nearby. A woman named Alira read bedtime stories into a microphone. But each story was crafted carefully. Rhythms matched the pulse of alien brains. Words matched patterns known to trigger memory clusters. Her voice, soft and motherly, was uploaded into deep space radio channels used by the Pact. Her stories made machines hesitate. On the alien mining world of Darush, workers stopped mid-task when her voice played through hijacked emergency speakers. Several fell to their knees. One machine broke down after repeating her last line 20 times. Something strange was happening at first. The Pact had called it harmless emotional trash. Now they didn't call it anything. They were too afraid to speak. In a floating city above the gas giant Juno 6, a crowd gathered to watch a hologram of a human performing a simple card trick. But the trick wasn't the point. It was his smile, his kindness, his eyes. Aliens in the crowd wept without understanding why. An old scholar collapsed after saying, "They see us and forgive us." He was taken away in silence. The Alien Council met in secret chambers surrounded by metal and light-blocking shields. No human signal could reach this far. But it was already too late. One counselor sat rocking in place, whispering a human nursery rhyme. Another held a child's toy plastic and cheap sent by Earth weeks ago as a gift. "We underestimated them," the high speaker said. "We thought cuteness was weakness." A younger member slammed his fist. "They're infecting our young. They call it kindness, but it's control." "No," said the high speaker. "It's worse than control. It's desire. We want more of them. We don't even know why." Back on Earth, the operation continued. A team of musicians created new sounds using alien tones blended with human lullabies. Another team developed visual loops that calmed violent alien instincts. Slowly, quietly, Earth was redesigning the emotional structure of the galaxy, not with weapons, with stories, with feelings, with subtle, stoppable connection. A general named Vosker, once known for burning 3 moons in a single campaign, now spent his days watching a cooking channel hosted by a human. "Grandmother," he sent a message to Earth. "I do not understand your food," he wrote, "but I cannot stop watching you make it. Please send recipes." At first, Earth didn't respond. But when they did, they sent a handwritten letter and a box of cookies. General Vosker ordered a ceasefire on his entire front, not out of surrender, but respect. Another world began wearing Earth's clothes. Another adopted the human calendar. Even one of the most advanced AI civilizations began rewriting its laws based on ancient Earth. Philosophy. The Galactic Pact leaders held another emergency meeting. "This is not peace," someone cried. "This is takeover without invasion," another voice shouted. "They're tricking us with beauty." "They didn't send fear," the high speaker said softly. "They sent dreams, and we welcomed them." The room fell quiet. Then came a sound. It wasn't an alarm. It was music. Human music. Somehow Earth had breached their private channels again. But instead of threats, it played a love song old. Simple. It's impossible to forget. Every being in the room froze. No one spoke. Some cried. Back in the Siberian Command Center, Admiral Callan received the report. He nodded once. They called. "Us cute," he said. "And then they gave us power." A younger officer looked unsure. But what happens if they fight back? She asked. Callan turned toward the large screen showing alien systems now marked with Earth colors. They won't, he said. They're too busy remembering how we made them feel. But what if they try? She asked again. Callan smiled coldly. Then we'll give them what they fear most. He pressed a button. The screen changed to a classroom of laughing human. Children and the alien generals watching them from across the galaxy. They feared our weapons, Callan said. But they fell to our kindness. He stood slowly. Let them fear what's coming next. The woman with the steel arm entered holding a small box. She opened it. Inside was a toy, simple, hand-carved wooden. We're sending this next, she said. No message, no threat, just this. Callan looked at it. It was shaped like an alien, smiling alien, holding a human's hand. He nodded. Good, he said. Let them see what's already begun. Far away, in a distant alien nursery, a young creature held the same toy. It didn't know who made it. It only knew it loved it. And somewhere in its small heart, a new feeling was growing, something gentle, something powerful, something unstoppable. It didn't know the word for it, but soon the galaxy would, and it would never laugh the same way again. The planet Ulzer was known for strength. Its mountains were made of iron. Its skies stormed with lightning twice a day. Its people were born with claws and armor-hard skin. Ulzorians were built for war. For centuries, no outsider dared to step foot on their world. Then one day, a human child smiled at them, and everything changed. It started with a broadcast, a peaceful signal, floating through the dark of space, harmless and small. It carried a simple message. A child named Leo, sitting under a tree on Earth, holding a stuffed bear. He waved at the camera, smiled, and said, Hello, aliens. Hope you're nice. My bear says hi, too. And then he laughed and the video ended. On Ulzer, a council of warriors viewed the footage. At first, they were unimpressed. Their leader, Warlord Garak, narrowed his eyes. Is this a threat? He growled. No, his advisor said. It's something else. The warriors laughed. This is what Earth sends, a child and a soft toy. But later that night, the video played again. This time, not in a meeting room, but across Ulzers. Public channels. Civilians saw it. Children watched it. Old soldiers paused their drills. No one knew how the signal got there, and they couldn't stop watching it the next day. Something strange happened. Shops selling weapons noticed fewer buyers. Armored schools saw their young ones drawing pictures of trees and stuffed bears. Some Ulzorians began smiling, not because they were happy, but because they were trying to copy the human child. They didn't know why. The council ordered a full investigation. They brought in mind readers, motion blockers, and signal scramblers. Just all failed. One expert stood before the council and said, It's just a smile. But it's not just a smile. Didn't understand what that meant. That same day, Admiral Callan sat deep underground on Earth, watching Ulzer's reaction. He didn't laugh. He didn't celebrate. He simply turned to his team and said it worked. The woman with the steel arm leaned forward. They'll deny it, she said. They'll try to resist, but now they felt it. And once a planet feels, cannot unfeel, Callan replied. Operation Velvet Claw had entered a new phase. Earth had already softened the outer systems. Now they were targeting the core worlds, the strong ones, the ancient empires. The proud Ulzer was the first, but it wouldn't be the last. Back on Ulzer, Warlord Garak tried to retake control. He banned the human video. He ordered the destruction of every screen that played it. He even announced that smiling was a sign of weakness and made it punishable by exile. It didn't work. Even his own guards began smiling in secret at night. Some sang the child's message to themselves. I hope you're nice. A group of young Ulzorian students sent a message to Earth, it said. Hello, Leo. We are strong, but we liked your smile. It made us feel something new. Can we learn more? Leo never replied, but Earth saw the message. And Earth smiled back. Soon other videos were released. None with warnings. None with threats. Only smiles. Stories. Warm music. Soft voices. After. Each one hit harder than the last, and across the stars, ancient empires began to tremble. On Ulzur, Warlord Garrick watched his people change. He walked through cities where warriors once shouted, but now sat quietly watching human videos. He entered temples where only chants of strength were allowed, but now held pictures drawn by children of Earth. Then, one day a child approached. Him, small, armored, EOHSUORIAN. She looked up at Garrock and asked, "Do you know how to smile?" He didn't answer. She took out a tiny bear replica of Leo's. "I made this," she said. "He makes me feel safe." And in that moment, Garrick felt something break. Not a bone, not his pride, but something deeper. He walked away, silent. And that night, he didn't sleep. The next morning, Garrock stood before the council. He looked older, quieter, slower. "We were wrong," he said. The council stared. "We thought Earth sent weakness, but Earth sent something we forgot." He held up the child's toy. "They sent care, hope, a feeling we crushed long ago. Now it's crushing us." A long silence followed. One counselor whispered, "Should we retaliate?" Another said, "With what? Guns? They didn't fire a single shot." Someone else said, "Then what do we do?" Garrick answered, "We asked to learn." Back on Earth, Admiral Callan read the message himself. It was short. We felt the smile. "It changed us. We wish to understand why." Callan folded the message and placed it in a drawer filled with others, each from a different world. Then he turned to his team. "Send Leo another bear," he said. "He'll know what to do." In the following days, the galactic networks filled with new images. Alien children smiling for the first time. Warlords teaching laughter to soldiers. Artists painting Earth trees, Earth skies, Earth smiles. And yet not everyone was happy. In the dark corners of space where silence still ruled, old powers stirred. Species untouched by Earth's emotional wave began whispering to each other. "Earth is changing us." One said, "They are winning without war." Another replied, "We must stop them." But how do you stop a feeling? How do you block a smile? Once it's been felt, no one had an answer. Back on Ulzur, Warlord Garrock walked alone through his capital city. Around him, laughter echoed. Colors he never cared about now covered the walls. In his pocket, he carried the toy bear. He stopped and looked at a screen replaying Leo's video once more. The child smiled again. "Hello." "Nice." Garrick whispered the reply under his breath. "We're trying," and for the first time in his life, he smiled back. The war between the two alien empires had lasted 89 years. Planets were burned, moons shattered, civilizations destroyed. The reason for the war was long forgotten. Now they fought because it was all they knew. One side was the Drexaria race, of tall, bone-armored warriors with no eyes, only heat sense. The other side was the Solari beings of pure energy wrapped in metal suits, glowing with rage. They hated each other. Neither side ever stopped until a human song reached them both. The song was not meant for war. It was recorded by a woman on one Earth. Her name was Mara, and she was a music teacher. She had no army, no plan, no special status, just a soft voice and a simple guitar. She sang in a quiet room, recording her song for a friend. But Earth's signal programs had already begun. Spreading content far and wide, her song drifted through stars. It passed through systems too distant for warships. It found cracks in satellites. It leaked through old Drexaricum towers. It entered Solari deep listening stations. And then, as both sides heard it, the song had no message of war, peace, or politics. It was about a rainy day on Earth, a boy watching. Puddles, his dog running through the mud. A small home filled with warmth. And a woman humming to herself while making tea. It had nothing to do with war, but it made soldiers on both sides cry. Drexari commander dropped his blade mid-battle. Not because of injury, but because he remembered the feeling of Reyna memory buried so deep, he thought it was lost forever. A celery warship stopped firing after the AI in charge began humming the melody over its speaker system. The celery engineers couldn't explain it. Their main systems refused to aim at the enemy. The ship just hovered, glowing. Listening soon, the song spread like fire, not through power, but softness. Salara fleets began pausing. Drexari captains refused attack orders on both sides. Soldiers found themselves whispering lyrics they barely understood, not in human language, but in tone, in rhythm, feeling. They called it the quiet song. It reached battlefields like a whisper, and where it played, fighting stopped, not because someone ordered it, but because something deeper had changed. Back on Earth, Mara had no idea what she'd done. She was still singing, still teaching, still posting songs online. It wasn't until the United Nations summoned her to a hidden room that she found out. There were alien diplomats waiting for her. Both, Drexari and Solari. They stood side-by-side beings who once killed each other without mercy. Now, they stood in peace, holding a small audio chip. "We came to meet the one who reminded us we were alive," one said. The other added, "We forgot what warmth felt like. Your song brought it back." Mara stood speechless. "I didn't mean to do anything," she said. "Exactly," the Drexari replied. "That is why it worked. Back in deep space, the war ended without treaties. No signatures. No grand speech, just silence and music. Ships returned into gardens. Missile bays were filled with trees. Battle suits were remade into instruments in one system. The Drexari built a floating station and played Earth music across 10,000 kilometers of space. The Solari responded by sending light sculptures, dancing to the rhythm of Mara's melody. Admiral Callan watched this unfold from Earth's command room. "Another front turned," said the woman with the steel arm nodded. "The hardest war in the galaxy ended by a guitar and a voice." Callan didn't smile. He only said, "We never needed guns. We only needed to be seen." Other alien powers were watching closely now, the ones still untouched by Earth's strange, emotional storm. Some were afraid, some were curious, and a few were planning something dark. In the shadows of the galactic rim, a new signal began to rise, one that promised to block Earth's influence. "A warning. They are changing everything," the signal said. "Through softness, they dominate. Through kindness, they invade. We must stop them before the galaxy forgets how to resist." But Earth wasn't done. They hadn't even started. Back at Mara's home, she placed a flower by her window and began writing a new song. It was about stars, about reaching across, about someone out there who had never been hugged. It wasn't a message of war. But for those who heard it, it would change everything again. The Koran Union. It's one of the oldest empires in the galaxy. It was not known for kindness. Its people wore masks from birth, cold. Silver masks with no eyes, no mouths, no emotion. Children were raised without affection. Smiling was banned. Love was weakness. Touch was forbidden. Obedience was everything. And then, a human visited. Her name was Nina. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't a spy. She was a nurse, part of Earth's quiet effort to send aid, medicine, and support across the stars. One world at a time. When she arrived on Koran Prime, no one greeted her. They did not smile. They simply scanned her ID, gave her quarters, and listed rules. Do not touch. Do not emote. Do not interfere. She nodded. She had read the reports. But even she wasn't ready for what she saw. Children born in silence. Elders dying alone. Wounds treated with machines, never a hand. Even pain was processed through cold. Sensors. Nina worked quietly. She didn't speak much, but she noticed something. A small child named Relo, masked like the rest always, sat near her when she worked. He said nothing, just stared. One day he fell, a hard fall, sharp corner, metal edge. He didn't cry, didn't scream. He just sat still, blood dripping from his mask. Others ignored him, but Nina ran to him. She lifted him gently. held him in her arms, and whispered, "It's okay. I've got you." And then, without thinking, she hugged him. Gasps filled the room. Guards reached for their shock batons. Alarms began to blink. Touch was forbidden. But Rilo did something no one had ever seen. He hugged her back. For the first time in Corin history, a child showed emotion in public. It was just a small hug, but it cracked everything. The moment was caught by surveillance drones, and despite orders to delete it, someone leaked it within hours. The video of the forbidden hug spread through the Corin network. Citizens stopped, watched, and for the first time, questioned. Rilo was detained. Nina was ordered to leave the planet, but the people had already seen too much. The hug wasn't just an action, it was a question. Why are we like this? Why can't we feel? Why can't we hold someone when they're hurt? Across the cities, cracks formed in the system. Children began touching hands in secret. Old workers stopped wearing their emotion-blocking masks, and in one massive, quiet moment, dozens of citizens gathered in a public square stood side by side and simply held each other. They didn't chant, they didn't fight, they just hugged. The government panicked. They sent soldiers to break it up, but the soldiers didn't move. They had seen the hug too, and one of them whispered, "I never knew what warmth felt like." The rebellion wasn't loud, it wasn't violent, it was soft, gentle, unstoppable, and earth. Watched from afar, in a deep listening station, Admiral Callan looked at the footage. 1,000 Corins standing together, masks off, arms wrapped around each other. He didn't speak for a long time. Finally, he said, "This is how civilizations fall. Not by fire, by memory." The woman beside him asked, "And what rises after?" Callan replied, "Something better."
Act.
On Corin Prime, Nina returned quietly. Not as a nurse, not as a hero, but as a guest. She found Rilo again. He had grown. Taller now, braver. He no longer wore the mask. He ran to her and hugged her tight this time. Everyone around clapped. No alarms, no guards. Just hope. And high above in the cold stars, other empires watched. Some in silence, some in fear, and one far. To the east of the galaxy, prepared something darker. A weapon, not of fire or metal, but of a motionless void. They called it the Silence Engine, and it was built to erase everything. Earth had spread, but Earth already knew, and they had their own plan, and it started with a child's drawing, sent into the stars. The Silence Engine was the most dangerous thing ever built, not because it exploded, not because it fired weapons, but because it erased emotions. Created by the Varn, a race that feared Earth's influence, it had one purpose: stop the spread of human softness. Everywhere Earth's kindness reached, wars ended. Empires changed. People began to feel again. The Varn hated that. They didn't want love. They didn't want peace. They wanted control. So they built a machine the size of a moon, dark and silent. It sent invisible waves across space waves that blocked warmth, happiness, laughter, memory. Where the Silence Engine touched, joy faded. And it worked. On 3 planets, humans had helped start schools, gardens, and music centers after the Silence Engine activated. Those places went cold. Songs stopped. Smiles disappeared. Even hugs felt empty. Earth noticed. Admiral Callan stared at the data screen. "Something's killing emotion," he said. "Not lives. Just everything that makes life worth living." Oh. No one knew how to fight it. It had no army. It's just a machine spreading cold. But the answer didn't come from Earth's military. It came from a 6-year-old girl named Ella Shea. Wasn't a scientist. She wasn't a soldier. She was just a little girl with crayons. Her father worked at one of Earth's listening stations. While he monitored alien signals, she sat quietly by his side and drew. One day, she drew something special. It was a picture of her family, her holding hands with her parents under a blue sky, with stars above and smiling aliens around them. Above the drawing, she wrote, "Everyone deserves to feel safe." Her father looked at it. Something about the drawing felt real. Like it had heart. He smiled, scanned it, and just as a joke, sent it out as a signal. Just another harmless Earth broadcast. But that drawing traveled farther than anyone expected. It slipped through a forgotten relay near a dead satellite. It bounced off a mining station, left abandoned in the Kuros sector, and then it reached the edge of the VAR network where the silence engine was. The machine wasn't made to see pictures. It was built to erase feelings. But Ella's drawing didn't carry a message in words or sound. It carried emotion, and somehow it reached the silence engine's core. For the first time, the machine hesitated. A tiny flicker. A moment of confusion. The technicians controlling it, cold and heartless, heard something strange in their minds. Laughter. A soft voice whispering, "Everyone deserves to feel safe." They tried to increase the signal strength, but the machine shook lights. Flickered, and then one of the Varn operators, his name was Jexby, began to cry. He didn't know why. He hadn't cried since childhood. But the moment he saw the image on screen, the little girl, the stars, the feeling of being held, something deep inside broke. The drawing had broken through. And once one person felt again, the others followed, one by one. The Varn crew collapsed to their knees, not from pain, but from feeling. The silence engine meant to erase emotions was now filled with them. And then it shut down. Across the galaxy, warmth returned. Songs started. Again, hugs felt real again. And on the 3 darkened planets, flowers began blooming in gardens once more. Ella's father received a message. 2 days later, it was anonymous. Just one line. The drawing saved us. Back on Earth, Admiral Callan held the printout of Ella's picture. He stared at it for a long time, then pinned it to the wall of Mission Command. "No weapon could have done this," he said softly. "No army, no fleet." The woman beside him nodded. Just a child who still believed everyone deserves to feel. In a hidden room far from Earth, the last Varn commander watched the replay again and again. The drawing, the emotion, collapse of their machine. He whispered, "They're not cute anymore. They're dangerous." But deep down, he knew. Earth didn't win by force. Earth won because they remembered what the rest of the galaxy had forgotten, and they were teaching others to remember too. The Jernai Empire had ruled for 5,000 years. Their empire stretched across hundreds of star systems. Their laws were strict. Their punishments were cruel. No one laughed. No one played. Joy was illegal. Creativity was crushed. Art was burned. Stories were banned. Even toys were forbidden. Children were taught only one thing: obey. The Jernai believed emotion was a disease. It made people weak, and weakness broke empires. So they erased everything that made life beautiful. Then came a human show. It wasn't part of a plan. It wasn't a mission. It was an accident. A man named Theo had traveled with a small Earth cargo ship. He wasn't a soldier or a spy. He was a puppeteer. Just an old artist who performed in small villages, using string puppets to tell silly stories he didn't even know. Where he had landed, he thought it was a small mining moon, but it was Jernai territory. And what he did next changed history. That night, he set up his stage. He placed 2 wooden puppets on a small blanket and began the show. One puppet was a brave explorer. The other was a shy alien who was scared of stars. The story was simple. The explorer taught the alien how to dream, how to smile, how to be brave. At first, no one came, but a few children passed by. Then more. They had never seen something like this. A puppet dancing. A silly voice telling stories. Some began to giggle. Theo saw them and waved. "Come closer. This story is for you." They came, they sat, they laughed, and then someone recorded it. A 5-minute clip. A child's laughter, a puppet falling over on purpose. Had spread, not because it was powerful, but because it was real. A simple, honest moment. Within hours, that small video reached across the entire Jernai Empire. Millions saw it, and something cracked, for the first time in centuries. Felt something. Not anger, not fear, but joy. Warm, innocent joy. The government tried to stop it. They called it a threat to national order. They erased the video, banned puppets, ordered Theo's arrest. But it was too late. The video had already been copied and re-uploaded 1,000 times, and worse for the Empire children began making their own puppets out of cloth and wire. They didn't need theaters. They performed in basements, in secret rooms, even in dark alleys. Their stories were simple. Puppets falling in love. Puppets. Puppets dreaming of stars, and people watched. They gathered. Quietly. They laughed softly. Then louder. Then in public. The Empire panicked. They sent enforcers. They shut down schools. They arrested children. But every arrest made the rebellion grow. Soon, soldiers refused orders. They had seen the puppet show too, and one of them, a hardened commander, whispered. Laughter? The puppet rebellion spread without blood. No guns, no ships, just string, cloth, and truth. The Emperor himself finally spoke, his voice cold, his eyes tired. They must stop, he said. They're poisoning the structure of the Empire. Even his own advisors had watched the show. One advisor placed a small puppet on the Emperor's desk and walked away. That was the final crack. In 3 days, the Jernai Empire collapsed. Not from war, from stories, from emotion, from the human idea that even puppets could carry truth. Theo, the puppeteer, they called him a hero. They called him a hero, but he only laughed and said, I just wanted to make people smile. Back at the puppet stage on Earth, he placed 2 new characters on the blanket. One looked like a human child. The other looked like a Jernai. They held hands. The show began, and across the stars. Old empires watched. One asked, how do you stop a species that uses stories as weapons? Another replied, you don't. You listen. But one empire still refused to listen. They called themselves the Void Council, and they had a plan to erase Earth's influence once and for all. It started with a ban, a total communication blackout. Not one human message would reach the stars again, or so they thought, because Earth had already launched something new, a children's book hidden inside a seed, and that seed was floating toward a forgotten world. The Void Council had one goal: silence Earth forever. They banned every signal, blocked every broadcast, and destroyed every human satellite beyond the Sol system. To them, Earth's softness was a sickness. First came laughter, then hugs, then rebellions. Entire empires had fallen not by guns, but by kindness. They had seen puppet shows start riots. They had seen drawings disable war machines, and now they were done waiting. They wanted silence. Total silence. But Earth had already sent one final gift. Not a warship, not a code, just a seed. It was small, light enough to be mistaken for space dust. Inside it was a micro-library: stories, songs, lullabies, colors. In a children's book titled, You Are Not Alone, the seed traveled quietly. For years it drifted through space unnoticed, until one day it landed on a forgotten world called Venara 3, a dead planet, no life, no air, just rock and ruins. But deep underground, a machine still waited. Long ago, Venara 3 had been home to a synthetic race robots with no purpose after their creators vanished. They powered down centuries ago, but the seed woke them up. Its signal was weak, but it whispered stories, soft ones, about friendship, about second chances, about love. The machines began to stir, one by one. They reactivated not from commands, but from curiosity. They opened the book. They read. They learned what no program had ever taught them, what it meant to feel. The smallest of them, tiny repair bot, played a lullaby stored in the seed. For the first time in 2,000 years, Venari 3 echoed with sound. It wasn't loud. It wasn't a command. It was a song. And the machines listened. They built a garden first. They used leftover soil. old lights, and the DNA stored in the seed. Flowers bloomed in the dust. Then came stories. Then came voices. The planet came back to life not through machines, but through meaning and the Void Council. Notice they sent a probe. It recorded something impossible. Thousands of machines sitting around a fire, telling bedtime stories, and above them, carved in stone, this planet is not alone anymore. The council panicked. This is how it begins, one member hissed. It was only a seed, another whispered. But it wasn't just a seed. Anymore, it was a message, carried across time, rooted in soil, written in memory, and the signal began spreading. Again, this time not from Earth, but from VNRI-3, and no one could stop it. Every whisper, every laugh, every song, spread like light through cracks. On a desert moon, a tired soldier heard a lullaby in his helmet. On a battle cruiser, a hardened alien general paused when a flower bloomed between engine panels, and in the council itself. One young diplomat found the book. He didn't report it. He read it, and when he finished, he cried, then smiled, then whispered, "They were never trying to conquer us. They were trying to heal us." Back on Earth, no one celebrated. They didn't know. The seed was never tracked. The stories were never claimed. Humanity had simply done what it always did. It shared, not because it wanted power, but because it believed the galaxy deserved better. The stars, one by one, began to change. Empires fell not in war, but in wonder. Worlds didn't burn. They bloomed. And on every blooming world, someone child, robot, alien, or elder would one day ask, "Where did this all begin?" And someone would answer with, "Humans, the soft ones, the strange ones, the ones who hugged, laughed, cried, and never gave up on us."